Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Lotzar, happy to be your host today. My sidekick, Vern Schellinger, is unavailable to be with us today. He is visiting his grandson in Boston, so we wish him well. So I'm here solo. We'll do this all together. So who would like to kick us off with a job search question?
I would.
Okay, Sonia.
First of all, I got a short day, so by 10 o'clock, I'm gonna drop off. It's nothing personal.
All good.
So
we know you still love us.
I do. I have another meeting that starts at 10, so forgive me. I do have a question, Shira. See if you can. I'm sure everybody has this question. In today's time, you've told us many times that the recruiters have hundreds of resumes and they only take a few people for the actual initial screening. Okay, let's just say that they're going to screen 10 or more people. How do you stand out? So, I mean, what I'm talking about, you have the meeting. It's good. It's good to the point it go beyond the 30 minutes they initially said.
Right.
And you're feeling good and you're smiling and they're feeling good and thanking you that, oh, I'm so glad to talk to you. This has been so good, Sonia. I have, well, whoever. I have other calls we have to make, but I have really, really enjoyed this.
Right.
Okay. As the person that's seeking the job, what can you do to make sure the recruiter comes back your way? Because you're really interested, you want it. I mean, you felt, you mentioned the culture and the fit and you felt it, they felt it. And then and they give you the impression, oh yeah, well, I will be back with you. What can you do to ensure that? In essence, I'm looking at, is there anything specific you can do to close the deal?
Well, it's really, people talk about closing the deal, and it's not that you shouldn't close the deal, but the deal is actually closed before the end of it, right? It is all the way along. It is a matter of you doing your absolute best to tailor your responses to this role. Now, I'm not trying to say that in a very kind of kindergarten-y kind of a way, like, well, of course. I mean that very, very specifically, because this opportunity is unique for them, okay? They have very specific things that they're looking for. And too often, a job seeker, and by the way, recruiters will do this on the flip side when they're looking at candidate resumes, but I'm not preaching to HR people right now, even though you are an HR person, Sonia. But I'm talking to you as a job seeker.
I'll say, as this question, I'm not HR.
You're not
just
HR.
A job seeker.
That's right. Your job as a job seeker is to treat every interview uniquely. It is to thoroughly understand what is written on that piece of paper, on that position description. It is to slice it, dice it, Ginsu knife it. It's to pull it apart. It is to ask enough questions so that you can get into the mind of the employer. It's what we recruiters, hopefully all recruiters are doing this, but to the extent that a recruiter can do this on the front end before they see candidates, that's our job, is to talk to the hiring manager and ask a million questions. From the history to the future, to the culture fit, to the skill fit, to the learning curve, to everything, okay? That's our job as recruiters. And you as job seekers have typically been put in the position of being, you're almost told to be reactionary, You sit there and they ask you a question and you're supposed to answer it. Well, have you done this? Well, have you done that? And you go, it's like, I've said before, they make it like a game of racquetball. Okay, they're like bouncing the ball against you. Answer the question. You need to make it a game of tennis. Okay, And as a game of tennis, it's much more of a conversation where you are getting to know them as much as they're getting to know you. And that means two things. On your side of it, on the making sure that you're qualified side, it's a matter of asking them questions that will suss out what they really are looking for and why. And that looks like not just answering the question, but sometimes getting them to flesh out the question. You can answer the question, but then you can come back to them. You can do one of two ways. You can either they ask you something and you say, wow, that's a really interesting question, Ms. Recruiter. Could you give me a little more color around the backstory of that question? You know, I'd love to hear a little bit. It'll give me a little more insight into your culture. It'll help me answer your question better. I'm not saying you do that every single question, right? But here and there, get them to just expand a little bit more. So then you can be more pointed and you can get to know them better, because that is your job. A, to show your qualifications, B, to figure out if it's the right job for you. You know, too often when a person's in transition for a while, the focus becomes on getting a job as opposed to looking for the right fit. It's a lot of dissonance that job seekers have, right? I need to put money on the table, food on the table rather. And yet when you get the job, it's like, wait a second, I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't get to know them enough. And all of a sudden, you know, 2 weeks later, 3 months later, it's like, it's not the right fit. So you really, really want to interview them back. Don't treat this as a lopsided conversation. You are just as important as they are. You are the other side of this equation, and people don't realize that. You know, employers tend to make it very much about them, but it is also about you. So when you come in with a place of confidence, not arrogance, but a confidence, and say, look, you know, I've got these questions. A, you're going to get your questions answered, but also it's impressive to them that you have the questions to ask. You know, oftentimes the questions that a job seeker will ask are what I call very generic, very right out of an interview book. So what are your expectations in the first year? So tell me what a typical day is like, da, 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 da. I mean, nothing wrong with those questions, but they're not insightful. They're sort of vanilla, you know? Mm-hmm. When you craft questions that are thoughtful and customized, that show the employer, you've done your research, you've done your homework, you've analyzed this job description, maybe you've done some research online. Hopefully you've done a lot of research online, but you know, maybe you've even been able to talk to somebody at the organization. It's possible. You know, on LinkedIn, you could possibly do that. Research them. Maybe they've had press releases, maybe whatever. Just gather information, learn about them way beyond the website, and start to ask some dot connecting questions. Okay. That's impressive. That is the road less traveled. Job seekers typically don't do that. Employers, if they get any questions at all, they're typically the generic ones. You can set yourself apart by really, really being thoughtful. Okay, everything from asking about from the history of the role to the expectations to challenges they're going to face, you know, interactions with colleagues, interactions with external stakeholders, but really putting the dots together, that can close the deal better than just about anything, because then you are showing them that you care and that you're being thoughtful and you're not just treating this like another interview with your standards and questions, right?
Okay. I don't ask standard. I'm a VP. I don't ask standard questions, right. But this is what I guess what I want to know. I you know, last time I talked to you all, I missed last week because I had something going on. But for the past 3 weeks, I have felt like Cinderella, and I feel like the prince is coming looking for me in the glass slipper. Okay. I've had so many interviews. I haven't done this since, well, I'm not going to age myself, but you get my gist. Yeah. But I had this interview this past week that seems ideal for me. It marries so well with my skill set. It's a VP level. And the other beauty of it, it is 10 minutes from my house. I live in Loudoun County. You can't beat that. And also it's a kind of matrix. Like if I get it, my boss is not going to be in the DC area. She's going to be in another state, East Coast, Northeast. But you know, I've done that, you know, many times before. I've had it where my boss was in The Hague, the Netherlands, you know, so I can do that with no problem.
Yeah.
But I've had this interview. Like I said, it went so well. We were talking and laughing and we jived and, she was, I'm just going to say it, she was in my generation and things were going so well. And she told me she had to go through it. This was not a interview where I got to talk about all I can do. That she just wanted to know what my interests was, things I have had experiences. She didn't want details. And she said the next interview we go into details if I make it to the next. I want to call this lady so bad and say, please pick me.
Yeah.
And I know I can't.
Right.
But I'm thinking about today. This, like I said, this was this past Monday. I've had 2 others since Monday, but this one really resonates with me. And I just don't want her to forget me.
Well, I understand. So we never really talk about thank you notes on this call, although we should. Do you send one immediately?
I didn't say, I thought about that. I didn't say, because the interview was supposed to be for 15 minutes. So that lets you know she's not looking for details. The thing went to 45 minutes.
Right.
It was so good. And like I said, I've been thinking about it today. I know she had other calls, but I don't want her to forget me. I want to do
Sonia, send a thank you note.
Okay.
That's the answer to your question. First of all, always send a thank you note, especially if you won't let her forget you.
I'm used to doing that, and that's a shame as an HR person to say that, but it's true. It doesn't. The interview goes so well that
it is
all I can think of. Oh, that's great. You
get off the call and you craft your note.
I will do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should always send a note within 24 hours, preferably same day. Now, here's the thing with those thank you notes. 2 things. Number 1, they need to be thoughtful. Don't just write 2 lines. Thanks for your time kind of a thing. It's the thank you for taking the time to interview me. I thoroughly enjoyed our discussion about X, right? Wanted to re-highlight my qualifications of Y, personalize it, where if there was something particular that you talked about that was really, impressive or notable or personal or whatever, highlight that. It should have an opening couple of lines, a substantive middle paragraph, and then a couple of closing lines.
Okay.
Be thoughtful. Don't write a page, right? Don't write 2 lines either.
Okay.
And here's the thing, folks. Okay. I cannot emphasize this enough. Proof, read your thank you note. Why am I saying that slowly and deliberately? Because when people write thank you notes, they tend to write them quickly. They wanted to get them off. It is so easy to miss a typo.
And people catch it.
People lose job offers.
Yeah.
Like that. A missing semicolon, misspelling the name of the person or the company, whatever. It's very easy to have an optical illusion. Our eyes want to see what we want to see. Like every writer has that. The best writers in the world. You write something and you gloss over. You're missing you're missing an A. You're missing a. Because your eye doesn't.
Because you fill in the blanks with your mind.
What we do, we fill in the blanks. Okay, what we want to see. Read it backwards. You in Microsoft, put it in Microsoft Word, and hit the what do they call that? The thing that speaks. The what do they call that? The
spelling.
No, it's not. It's not the. Well, that too. There's the spelling one. It's the
Grammarly.
No, hold on. It's I'm looking for it right now. Oh, read aloud. Okay. So if you go to Word, if you go to Word and then hit the ribbon that says review, there is one that's called read aloud, and literally it will read it to you word for word.
Oh, I never knew that. You said that's in Microsoft?
Yeah, I'll show you right here. So if you just go to, okay, so normally everybody's on home, right?
Okay.
So if you go over here to review, well, sorry, home is where we start. Okay, that's the normal ribbon.
Okay.
You go to review, you can go to read aloud.
Wow.
And it'll literally read it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great. I didn't even know Microsoft can do that. I have one more question. Hang on, Ty. I got one more question. I had an interview yesterday. It was so uncomfortable. It was the one where I think, I'm not sure if we talked about this before, Shira, but it was the one where you have to have, you're being recorded. There's nobody there. They send you a question,
right,
and they are recording you, your voice, your the picture and all of that. I had never done that before. It was so uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is.
And for me, it was extremely frustrating.
Yep.
Because I couldn't get my technology didn't work with theirs, but they had tech person in the chat. She did a beautiful job. She got me connected, and I did send kudos to her back to the company that she did a great job, because she did. But let me tell you, it was so uncomfortable to me that I just recorded it. After each question, you can go back and I refuse to do that. Kind of like actors say, I don't want to see myself in the movie I just did. It was that kind of situation.
Yeah.
And to me, it was so impersonal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what to think about that. Any thoughts?
I mean, look, I appreciate your discomfort with it. A lot of companies don't do it. Okay. So thankfully, this is not a normal way of it. I don't see any trend around this necessarily. So that's the good part of it. I think you're just gonna have to grin and bear it, Sonia. I really do. Because you don't want that piece of the process to stop you from getting a great job. Because the process that recruiters use usually often doesn't have much to do with your experience in the job.
Yeah.
Okay. Occasionally it does in terms of, sometimes it can reflect culture, not that particular thing, but other ways that they handle themselves.
But
that's just a routine process. It doesn't feel good. I understand, but I think it's just grin and bear it.
The issue is when you are interviewing, you're thinking, and when you pause, you don't be quiet. You're I believe.
I get it.
You talk to yourself.
I understand.
And it's all being recorded. And you're thinking like, oh God, I blew it. I just refuse to go back and view the tapes.
Because what it is when you're being interviewed, people feel like they have to be on, like you're giving a presentation.
Yes.
Which is very different than having a conversation. There's an interesting phenomenon I've noticed recently. So I have this leadership class that I'm co-hosting with a colleague. Anyway, so part of our class offerings is we will interview, myself and my colleague will interview some mentors. Okay, so we have these mentors, and they present case studies for our participants. We interview these mentors, there's usually 2 or 3 of them. We interview them in advance, and then we give the recording to the mentees, so that they'll do the homework in advance of the class. Well, what's really interesting is that we'll get on this call, right? Myself and my colleague with the mentors, and we'll be chatting just like this, right? The pre-chat before the video. We're all kind of like, laughing around. And then as soon as I hit record, everybody straightens up and everybody gets very formal. And all like how they speak. It's like they're different people. Just by the flip of a switch, by hitting the record button, they turn into this presenter as opposed to having a conversation. It's a really interesting phenomenon. So I would just say, look, do your best. I would not screen the job out because of it. It's just part of their process. And you know what? Maybe it'll help you stretch and grow. Maybe it'll help you improve your public speaking.
Well, that's true, especially if it's something you've never done before. That was the first time I'd ever done that. And
it'll help you improve your public speaking skills. And we're doing so much more Zoom these days and recordings and all of these things. Maybe one day you have to give a webinar. And I've done this many times where there's nobody there. Like you literally can't see a person and you're speaking to crickets. And that's not fun, but it's growing and it's stretching. And just use it as a learning opportunity.
Okay. All right. I'll sit down.
Okay.
You all have the floor.
All right. All right, Ty, and then Holly had actually sent me some advanced questions about, I'll go into
Well, I have like 2 questions or comments. When Sonia was talking about the thank you notes, send an email versus a handwritten. I've heard people say hardly anybody sends a handwritten thank you note.
Pre-pandemic, I would have recommended to send an email and then follow it up with a thank you note. Here's the challenge in today's world. Actually, Ty, you tell me, in today's world, what do you think the challenge is with sending a thank you note?
Well, people aren't in the office.
Exactly.
It goes
Right.
goes there and sits there for days, maybe weeks
Precisely.
or months.
Right.
Who knows? Who
That's right.
knows? Or
That's
maybe
it.
it never gets to them.
That's right. That's right. That's
So,
it. You've answered your question. Send an email.
the other question I have is during an interview, I was told, okay, there's really 2 positions. We took this position, broke it up. Are you interested in the other position? And my response was, let me take a look at the skill set. And then when I sent a thank you note, I said, I'd like to learn more about the other position. Is that a good response?
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yes. And the thank you note, yeah, you can include it there. You can also include a separate, in fact, that's what I would do. I would include a separate note. Yeah, you know what? I would split the 2 up. I mean, you can acknowledge it and say, thanks for sharing. I'm interested. And then a separate email saying position in subject line, position title X, thank you for sharing this with me. I'm very interested in exploring it. Let me know, if we can set up another call to discuss, because otherwise it's just buried in the thank you note and they're not going to see it.
Okay, so I did bury it in thank you notes. So I follow that up with a separate email.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Because when people send thank you notes, employers are just like, oh, that's very nice. They're not reading it for content. They're not necessarily reading for, looking, because they're not, the assumption is not, you're not saying something action oriented in the thank you note. You're just thanking them.
Now this was the recruiter, not the hiring manager. This was an outside. I don't know if that makes any difference.
Even so, yeah, I still send a separate note. All the more actually, because recruiters are very busy. They're just like going candidate. You want to make sure that you flag them, say, yes, I'm interested in this.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so Holly had sent some questions in advance, and I'm going to just go through one by one here and see what we have time for. Okay. All right. So this is what she said. By the way, she did give me permission to acknowledge that she sent them. So here you go. All right. I have a good working relationship with the person I'm currently doing my contract work with. That being said, she has been burned in a previous business partnership, and I think I will potentially react quite poorly to me looking for a new position / leaving her organization. What might be some good strategies when a company asks if they can contact your current employer? I can provide solid references, but they're from a while ago and are not quite as current. So the thing with that is putting your specific situation aside, Holly, this is a good generic question around what do you do when you're currently working and somebody asks for references. It is completely and totally acceptable to the new employer to not provide any references from your current employer. That's perfectly normal because the assumption is you're doing a confidential search. That said, and this may not be relevant to your current situation, but for other people who maybe have been at an organization for a long time, right? If you have a former supervisor that you can provide, former colleagues, former direct reports, former anybody, those are the people that you would provide relative, for that organization. No one's expecting you to provide your current supervisor. Absolutely not. No, the assumption is you're doing a confidential search. That's just as simple as that. Does that help? Okay, cool. All right. Hong, did you have a comment about this particular thing?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
The same thing. I work for the charity organization for 25 years. I got good relations with all my manager, but the existing one, I didn't get along. If for the job reference, I won't get a good one. So as you said, I can ask my previous manager to give me a job reference.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so worried that if the new employee asking for the job reference with my existing, the most recent manager, she won't give me a good one.
She won't give you a good one. Yeah.
She done that to the past employees. She even said that She said I gave a nasty reference. I did not get along. Like when I was working, she said those things already. So it would be happen the same thing for me if asking for the reference.
I would do your best to just give the previous employer, the previous, supervisor.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And try.
That's my
try your
concern
best
for
to
a
do that.
long time.
Try your best.
Like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay.
So what if, I'm curious, so I have a previous supervisor that I know he'd be happy to provide a reference. It's going to be awkward because I haven't talked to him in a long time.
Mhm.
So there's that little bridge to cross. I'm still doing education work, but it's not the same. Like the content of what I'm doing is more closely related to my current interviews. So I don't know whether to reach out with another contract employee with the company and risk a slip getting out that I'm looking, or how important is it to have
It's
someone?
very, very tricky. There's no pat answer for that. There really
Okay.
isn't.
Okay.
Because you're right. Anybody you tell in your current organization could easily tell your boss. So I'm not going to advise you to go do that unless you have a relationship with somebody where you are pretty much assured they're going to be confidential. And even then you can't guarantee it. So tricky. It's tricky. I try to go outside the organization if at all possible. Yeah. So
I have a comment on that, Holly. I use a former COO for reference too, and he has left the East Coast. He's on the West Coast. I call him and I was like, hey, Bill, I'm in a job market. I would like to use you for reference. Are you okay with that? And then tell him what the job is about so he can get it together as to what he's going to say about you. But I've never known anybody to have a problem giving a reference. I give many references. It always amazed me. I mean, when I say many references, I give references that are not from HR, people who I work with. And I guess having a former VP of HR give a reference, that gives some kind of, I don't know, some kind of, I'll say credibility or something to the company that you are, you're trying to get the job with. But just call them. Everybody understands in this job market. And I just don't think anybody will do it. And you can also, one of the things I do colleagues. Like I have a colleague who was, when I was VP of HR, she's VP of Finance. I have given her reference in this year for a new job. And she knows she's on target, that if I need to give a reference, I would give her. Anybody would love to hear from a VP of Finance, because they know finance people, if the money's not right, life is not good. So use some of your colleagues at that level. It doesn't have to be someone who you reported to, but somebody who work with you and know how you work and so on and so forth. You can use them, call them, tell them what's going on, and then send it in. And good luck.
All right. So Hallie's second question. I have a small gap in my resume and I'm curious how to speak to that. Is an employer allowed to ask about it? Yes. Employers can ask about anything on your resume, especially gaps. Here is something really interesting that just happened with LinkedIn. So LinkedIn keeps changing all the time. They just added a very, very cool feature. When I say just, I mean just. So I'm going to share my screen and show it to you. And it's super, super cool. They have now allowed you to address your your gaps on your experience section, which is your resume. And let me show you how. Okay, so you go to your profile. All right, so go to your editable profile, the place where you make your changes. And you go down to your, and by the way, just for those who don't know, I mean, I have to imagine most people do, but this is your main LinkedIn page. Click on your picture. And then this takes you to the editable page. You know it's editable because you'll see all these little pencils, okay? All the way down the page, all these little pencils. Now, go down to your experience section. Here's the cool piece. Got to watch this, all right? Everybody looking? Click on the plus sign And watch, instead of just saying add position, it says add career break. It is brand new and it is yummy. Watch this. You hit on add career break. Look what it gives you. The type. Ready? Look, look at all of these selections they give you. What was your career break? Was it bereavement, career transition, caregiving, full-time parent? They gave everything you could possibly think of. Yeah, isn't that cool? You know, so let's say you were overcoming an illness or whatever, you could say health and well-being, or you can say, let's say you were at the same time you were, you know, caregiving for somebody, full-time parenting, whatever. Okay. And that's all you do. And you just hit, you know, whatever the date was. You can put a description in it if you want. If you want. Now, of course, if it's very personal, it's a medical or whatever, I mean, be judicious about that. I wouldn't really say anything. But you could say, especially if it was recent, and you're coming back into the workforce, you know, something like health, you know, time off for health and well-being, you know, ready to re-enter, you know, the workforce or whatever it is. You don't be too personal, because you don't want to be just inadvertently discriminate against yourself. So I would really avoid anything that really says medical. But you can just say, but you could even say it was a personal sabbatical. That's a really good one if you were dealing with something medical. Took time for personal sabbatical, you know, ready to re-enter the workforce as of X date.
Hey, Shira, where did you get to? I'm sorry, my phone was ringing when you
That's
were.
okay. That's all right.
When you're
on your editable page.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Go down to experience.
Uh-huh.
Click on the plus sign.
Uh-huh.
And this is add career break.
Oh, wonderful.
And then click on type, please select, and then just pick whatever the thing was.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah. I'm so delighted that they did this.
So I got laid off in last summer. Should I put in the gap in there, like got laid off, or like I got laid off in June last year?
Mm-hmm.
So should I put a gap in there just later?
Yeah. I'm sorry, you got laid off last June?
Yeah.
And you've been in transition ever since?
I took course for 3 months. So, and now I am spend more time for applying for the job.
I would say in the description, so click on retire or layoff, and then in the description, during time of job transition, took continuing education classes, something like that.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, and then Holly had one more question. As I move through my job search, I've done a lot of journaling, reflecting, and networking, and I've tried to narrow down what I'm interested in and the types of positions I think I want to pursue. That said, I've been in the world of education for a long time, and there's a lot to learn about what's available out there. What are some suggestions you might have for being strategic and focusing on a goal, while at the same time being open to something while at the same time being open to something I may not have originally considered? Some days I feel like I'm all over the map without a good strategy and end up in a rabbit hole of research. That is, you're not alone with that, Holly. And I wish I had a pat answer for you. That's actually, I'll just say I am a career coach. So if you want to actually, honestly, if you want to engage, I'm happy to have that conversation. That's a little bit tough to really explore, right? Because everybody who's, you know, people who are sort of searching for what the trajectory is, sometimes people feel like they have to be like kind of, well, there's all these things I could do, and where do I focus? I would say as a generic concept, okay, but I can't specifically address your situation, but when you're thinking of your brand, which is important specifically for LinkedIn, you want to come up with what I call a broadly narrow brand. What does that mean? Broadly narrow? Okay. It needs to be narrow in the sense that it needs to have some definition, but broad in the sense that it has some elasticity. So for example, and I don't know what your, I haven't looked at your profile, so I don't know like what part of education you're in. I'm going to totally make this up. So let's say you are in higher education, okay, which of course is different than K-12, right? So let's say a person's in higher ed, that could be the narrow piece, but broad in that you don't specifically, like you talk a little bit about what area you're in admissions, or you're in counseling, or you're in whatever it is, but maybe not too specific. So it has a little bit, some definition. On the other hand, the more defined you are, the more credible you are, right? Because then people will say, oh, okay, she really knows her stuff. She knows exactly who she is, what she wants to do, and she's going for it. So broadly narrow brand is good for people who need a little bit of wiggle room. But the more crystallized you can be, the more people are going to be like, okay, she knows her stuff. So for example, let's take a marketer. There's a lot of types of marketers out there. I mean, at every spectrum, okay, from people who work with businesses to consumers to digital to market research. I mean, there's a million things. When a marketer says, I am a digital marketing expert, okay, like there you go. And then they get even more specific and they're like, well, I'm into SEO and inbound marketing and da 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 da. Okay, they know their thing. Someone else says, I'm in marketing operations. Okay, that's their thing. So it says to the employer, you know what you're doing, and you know yourself, and you know your brand. That's not your case right now. You need to actually need help defining that. But once you get there, then articulating that in the headline of your LinkedIn, headline of your resume, it'll help your job search. It'll help your networking. You'll be able to pitch yourself better to employers. When they say, okay, so what do you look, sorry, not your employers, to your network, they say, what are you looking for? You're like, oh, this, great. When you say this, it gives people a label. They can better refer positions to you. If you're all over the place, they don't know what to refer you to rather, right? So it helps your network help you, the more clarity you have. So, feel free to reach out if that's helpful to you. We can certainly have a conversation. Okay. Yes.
I have one question regarding LinkedIn. Like, as I have told you last time that I am having no experience and I'm looking for call center, like sales representative jobs. So there are so many opportunities, but every company asking for experience and this. So now what I am doing is I am looking for to make a contact, to make connections and referrals and increase my network. So with regard to that, I'm not sure, like I connect with the people, I follow them, but I don't know like how to get connected with them because of course I haven't met them. So can you please guide me a bit about this?
Yes, I say for any time you're looking to make connections, to expand your network in LinkedIn, go ahead and actually hit the connect button. Okay. Hit the connect button and then add a personal note. So let me just pull this up here. Give me a moment. All right, so you go to the search bar and did you say call center?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to type in call center and see who comes up. All right, so here's a person who is a call center customer service director. So let's say you wanted to connect with this person.
Yeah.
Hit the connect button. Now, if it's a second level, you'll see connect. If it's a third level, you won't see the connect button. So you'll have to go into the more button. And in the more button, it would say connect. It doesn't right now because it's over here, but normally it would say connect in the more button. Okay, so you hit the connect button.
Yeah.
Add a note.
Yeah.
And then, person's name. And then you would write a note, say, I am exploring opportunity. I'm making a career change or I'm making a career shift into the call center environment. I'd like to connect to learn more about the field from your perspective. Would you be open to a short call so we can have an informational interview? Something like that.
Okay.
Or I'm impressed with your background and I'm interested in exploring opportunities in the call center world. Please let me know if you would be available for a short call. Now, I'm not saying that a lot of people are going to accept the request. A lot of people won't because they're busy and they don't know you.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
You can try, and there are some people who will accept it. And the other thing you can do is if you are a second level connection, what you could do is reference your mutual connections, which are right here. Okay, so it says 6 mutual connections.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, I was looking at many people like you might know Nick. He has a connection with you. So do you know Nick and other people also? Like many call center agents are with the reference to you, like connected with you. So would it be okay or would it be possible if you refer me to someone and my purpose is to, of course, to experience to increase my experience. So how it will work?
I'm not sure of your question. Could you say that again?
Okay. Actually, I have seen on LinkedIn, there are many call center agents or sales representative agents who are connected with you, like who are second connection of me, and first connection is with yours. Like the person name is Nick. He's connected with you and other call center agents also. So is it okay if you refer me to someone?
Are you talking about me personally? Me, Shira?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't understand that. Oh, sure. If I'm ever connected to somebody that you, that if I'm ever connected to somebody that you want to meet, of course, you're always welcome to write me. I'm happy to refer you. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, because I know I am having skills for the thing, and but the problem is only experience. Everywhere experience, they are asking for experience. So it would be better if you please refer me to someone, and if they give me training, and if they think that I'm not doing well according to them, so it's perfectly fine if they reject me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to make a referral. I can't guarantee anything, but I'm happy to do it if it helps. No problem. Sure. And remember too, again, not everybody's going to respond to you, okay? Because people are busy. And plus, if I know somebody, if I have a connection, it doesn't necessarily mean I know the person, because I'm an open networker. I have lots and lots of people I don't know. So they may not even know me, and I'll try, but but if you have a few people you'd like me to do that with, you feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat. I'm not going to be able to do a ton of them, but I'm happy to do some. Absolutely. Whatever I can do to help.
So what's your email address you have given me?
I just put it in the chat, Shira@purposefulhire.com.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ty?
Yeah, getting back to that new feature on LinkedIn, you think, I know it's early yet, do you think there's going to be an expectation from employers for the candidates to explain anything that's open on their resume if there's a job gap?
Well, there always is. That hasn't changed. Like people will typically ask if there's what went on in the job gap. So you just kind of have to be prepared to address it. If you were just in job transition, you're in job transition. That's okay.
Well, I guess I'm thinking, is it advantageous to just go ahead and explain it, or just leave it there as is? Yes.
Oh, you mean actually write out?
Yeah, like it gives you room. I mean, I guess when is it an advantage and when is it a disadvantage, if there's such perspective on that?
I think it's just an advantage. I think you just put your have the gap and just say what the gap was.
Okay.
I think it's just always an advantage, because then you can say then they don't have to address it. It's just there. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Hong?
I worked for the place for 25 years and then got laid off. It's very difficult for me, like try to understand looking for a job. Do you mind take a look on my LinkedIn, see anything missing?
Let me see here. Hold on. Okay, so.
Yep.
So is this you right here?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so what do you need me to review?
So I on the job for 25 years, for the same organization, do I need to list every job I had, like from when to when, what I have done?
You're talking about at Lutherwood?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm there for 25 years.
And you had multiple jobs there?
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. You need to list. Yeah, you want your LinkedIn profile, your experience to be fleshed out, because otherwise they don't know what you did. This is really your resume.
Okay.
This is your resume. Okay. So when you go in here, in fact, let me go to my own profile and you can see. How you do it. All right, so let's say you, so you add a job, okay, add the position. Now, here's what you do. You put in the title, okay, employment type, which is, full-time, whatever. The name of the company, here's the thing. With that company, okay, so let's say it's Lutherwood.
Yep.
Okay, make sure that you click on this one. Here's why.
Okay.
For every time you add a job, click on Lutherwood. When you put in the dates need to be consecutive. What'll happen then is that LinkedIn will intuitively understand, oh, she had all of these jobs at that one company. They're going to list it all under Lutherwood.
Yep.
It'll all come underneath that. But you have to have Lutherwood with their logo every single time, and make sure when you put the years that they are consecutive.
The most recent or the one I started.
All of the jobs.
Okay.
All of the jobs, and just make sure the years are consecutive.
Okay.
Okay. And then with the same company, it'll all fall under Lutherwood.
Okay.
Okay.
So do I need to go back for 15 years or do I go back for 25
Yeah,
years?
it's a great question. I mean, I normally don't recommend to go back more than 20 years, but 25 is okay. So you were at the company 25 years. In your case, I would say it's okay. Just go all the way back. Show the progression.
Yep.
You started out as an assistant and then ended up, all the things that you did.
Yeah, I started like a clerk and then moving up to analysis.
Yep.
If on the job interview, if the recruiter is asking me like why I left the job, do I just say layoff and restructuring, or what should I say?
Yeah, that's exactly, if that was what it was, if layoff or restructuring, that's perfectly acceptable. Yeah. If your position was eliminated, you can say if your position was eliminated or your position was restructured. That's those two are good.
Yeah, like when HR person told me when the final day meeting, and they said there's nothing to do with me, my job, it's just restructuring from the department.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then that's exactly what I would say.
Okay.
I'd say it just like that. Say my supervisor told me it had nothing to do with my performance. It was just a restructure.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, any other questions?
Shara, do you have, or maybe you can, I'm sure if I just look up on a website, a list of kind of standard interview questions. I have an interview Tuesday and I haven't interviewed for a job in like 8-ish years. And they sent me some materials I have to, prepare. And it was actually really wonderful. The content knowledge they sent me in advance to review. It's like several pages with several very detailed questions. And I'm okay with that because I know where to go to find the answers for that. It's the general interview questions that are just not in my mind.
Here's the thing. I would stay away from general interview questions. I'd make your interview questions very specific to the role.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I wouldn't, you could look, there are a million articles, there are a million books. You could just Google top interview questions. Yeah. You could. I would much rather see you customize them. I'd rather you be very authentic. Read the role. What questions do you authentically have?
Yeah.
About what your expectations are, about the scope, about how you're going to be evaluated, about the history of the role, about challenges that they're facing, how this role aligns with their strategic vision, Just be thoughtful about it. You don't have to be standard. In fact, if anything, if you're too standard, it can come off as kind of too canned.
It's more like what they're going to ask me because I have read through the job.
Oh, you're talking interview questions. Oh, not for you to ask them, but they're going to ask
you. I have very specific questions for them because I'm not even sure at this point, like I'm on the fence about whether obviously I don't have an offer. I don't have a decision to make, but I've changed my path and my thinking a lot since I applied for this almost 2 months ago. It's more what I might get asked.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, there are definitely same thing. Million articles, million books.
Okay.
Standard interview questions. You can look those up, but you think from the perspective of the employer. They're always trying to mitigate their risk on every possible level. Okay. Everything from the standard stuff, why you left each position, like you said, gaps in your resume.
Yeah.
Why are you interested in the role? All kinds of questions about your behavioral skills. Okay. And what they'll often do is they'll have these, what's called behavioral interview questions. Describe a time when you blah, blah, blah. Tell me about a time. And when they say describe a time or tell me about a time, they're typically going to put a soft skill in there. Describe a time when you had to resolve a conflict. Blah, 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 blah. What was the situation? How did you do this? You know, describe a time when you failed at something, and what did you learn from it, or whatever. They're looking for your soft skills, or looking for who you are, right? Not just what you do. Your best responses are going to be in the following formula. Now, the formula I'm about to give you, you'll hear in lots of different ways. I use the one called SAR, situation, action, result. Some people call it STAR, PAR, CAR. It's all the same thing. It's a story. So the situation is da-da-da-da-da happened. Here's the action that I took to solve the problem. Here was the result. That's how they all want your stories to go. So that's how you respond to it. And your best bet is to go through your resume and find accomplishment stories all the way down the page. So have an arsenal of accomplishment stories, right? Kind of, I call them arrows in your quiver. So like pull out an arrow whenever you need one. And then when they ask you the question, you can, if you need to, you can paraphrase it back, say, oh, so what I'm hearing you ask me is da, 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 did I get that right? You could also, as I mentioned earlier, ask them to clarify it a little bit, right? Or give a little bit of color around it. And so you want to tailor, again, you want to hit the bullseye, pull the right arrow out. That's why you're asking these questions. Make sense? And that's a very generic, my very generic response. I'm going to lead you to my website. I have a video. I did a training on this once, and I call it Interviews That Land the Offer. So go to purposefulhire.com, go to job seekers. Shira speaks to job seekers. And then down here, it says Interviews That Land the Offer. And then here's the slide deck for it. And all of these are videos, okay, from job search groups that I've spoken to. So I'm putting it in the chat. Okay.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Huh?
You talk about accomplish and award. So on my job, I got two exceptional performance for conversion of the accounting system and set up the tax. So I like when the government changed the tax, I set up the tax coding in the accounting system, and I got exceptional performance.
Great.
Should I say those things like exceptional performance conversion of the accounting system and exceptional performance for like
absolutely
tax, set up the tax system in the accounting system?
I would put it in your resume and mention it in your interviews and put it on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Then when you talk more, and then I think about more.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you can tell people that you did a great job, tell them.
Yeah, I got exceptional bonus from the COO, like what I have done. Okay, got it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And if you can get a reference from the COO.
He's no longer here, but oh yeah, you're right. Not long before. Do you think
and by the way, not just a reference letter, but also a recommendation on LinkedIn. If you can ever get your former supervisors to give you a recommendation, let me share with you where that is. So down here, sorry, down here are recommendations. Okay. So if you don't have any recommendations right now, this section is not going to show up. Okay. So what you would do is you would go to a so let me back up. You can only get a recommendation from somebody who is your first level contact. You have to be first level connected with them. Then go to that person. So Ty, are you and I connected? Here. So I'm going to go to Ty.
Okay.
And I want a reference from him, or sorry, a recommendation from him. So I'm going to pull up his profile. I'm going to go to the More button.
Okay.
Click on Request a Recommendation. Select my relationship, whatever it was, your position at the time, whatever it was. And then instead of, hi, Ty, would you write me a recommendation? Before you do any of this, write to that person an email.
Okay.
Ask them for their permission. Say, would you mind giving me a recommendation on LinkedIn? And if they say yes, mention some of the things you'd like them to say. If there are certain qualities you want, emphasize anything about your brand, just prompt them a little bit. Then go here and then say, hi, Ty, thanks for agreeing to write a recommendation, as we discussed, please, would you kindly, mention blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then you send it and then they'll write it. It'll come back to you. There'll be a button that'll allow you to ask for an edit. So if there's something that needs to be changed, you can send it back with the edit button. Then when it's final, then you hit publish, and then it'll show up on your recommendation sheet.
Okay,
It's very, very, very helpful to have recommendations. In fact, you can't have enough. Get as many as you can from supervisors, from colleagues, other people who know your work, not friends, not family members, people who know your work.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. We good?
It's very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hung, are you new with us? I don't think I've seen you.
Not the first time today.
Oh, welcome. How did you find out about us?
Very helpful information. Ty, he with me on another group.
Oh, you heard about this from Ty?
Yeah. Oh no, I just on Meetup. So I just.
Oh, you just went to Meetup and found us. Oh, nice.
Yeah, but it's very helpful for me. Thank you so much. I said, on my 25 years ago, when I was looking for a job, I just print out a resume and chop it up a mail. But now it's so much a LinkedIn resume. So I don't understand, they said over 90% for job is by LinkedIn, recruiter look at.
Recruiters look at LinkedIn all the time. You need to have a very strong LinkedIn profile. Back on that on my website where I showed you the trainings. Okay. Let me show you another video you may be interested in.
Okay.
So go back here to share a space to job seekers, and then go down here to using LinkedIn like a pro. Right here. It's a 2-hour training, and it'll teach you all kinds of things about LinkedIn, about LinkedIn, how to have a good profile, and how to use the search features to find people in your network.
Oh, so good.
2 hours. I mean, it's a very intense training. So I highly recommend that. Okay, using LinkedIn like a pro. Okay,
so all of them are virtual, right? I can go
all virtual. This is all Zoom. These were all well, no, they're all videos. Some of them were Zoom calls, and some of them are pre-pandemic, where I actually did a stand-up training. But they're all just recordings of job search presentations. Okay, all of these. So feel free to look at any one of them. And like I put it, you saw I put that in the chat, right? Did you see that, Hung?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Are you having the workshop every Friday?
So this meeting is every Friday from 9:15 to 10:15.
Okay.
Eastern.
Do you have another one or?
Every Friday morning.
Okay.
This is the one I do. Now periodically I'll do other presentations to other groups, but this is the one that I host directly. And normally I have a colleague, his name is Vern. Normally Vern is with me on this call, and he and I answer questions together.
Okay.
Okay. So right now we're gonna end this part of the meeting. So right now, and if you'd like to stay on, I also do a prayer call right now. If you'd like to stay on for that. Otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing you next Friday.
Thank you so much. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye bye.